So I wanted to do a little bit of a longer video on the friendships. So I did a video a while back on the red flags of relationships. Um, that was mostly talking about romantic relationships. So let's talk about the platonic relationships. So first and foremost, um, when we are talking about um, relationships that are platonic, there's the possibility of romance in that relationship. For example, if you are the same sex and either one of you are interested in same sex relationships, or if you're opposite sex and either one of you are into opposite sex relationships, whatever the dynamic may be, um, pay attention, okay? Um, if you are not interested in a person who may be romantically interested in you, and I say may as in like they may develop feelings for you, um, be cautious. Okay, always, always, always make sure that you are 100% honest with everybody. Okay, if you are an opposite sex friendship, make sure you are very clear from the beginning. I am not interested in a romantic relationship. It's never a good idea to be vague, okay? Yes, it happens. Sometimes people develop feelings for one another. Um, but if you are in a relationship or they are in a relationship and there's the possibility of romantic feelings beginning, it's probably not a good idea for you to spend time with that person alone. Just for, reasons, right? Um, and if there is ever an inkling within you that the other person is, I guess they say, catching feelings, um, developing romantic feelings for you, um, it may be a good idea to take a break. Because sometimes we can think we develop feelings for someone because we have things in common, because we treat that person with respect, and it may not be something that they get very much in their life. And so those feelings are confused. Okay. So if you are not interested in a person, you should always be honest. Um, it's not fair to the other person to not be honest. And if you care about that person as a friend, it's only fair, right? Um, enough about that. Okay, so what I specifically want to talk about is um, the dynamic between the friend, like between the friends. Okay, um, when you have like a large group of friends, okay, if you have, let's say, like three or four or more friends, and you're all like a tight knit group, um, be aware of like pairing off, okay, or leaving another person out. Um, it it can get tricky. It can get sticky. So if you, like I said, have a tight knit group of friends, but you are closer to like maybe one or two of those friends, and anybody else is left out of that group, this can develop into uh, not so very good feelings for those people that were left out. Okay. Um, and if you notice that a person is starting to pull away from the group, or like when you start to ask, hey, you want to go out or you want to do something, and then like you get a constant no, check on that person. Do check on that person, okay? Like, sit down with just them, like, so they're not like bombarded with people, like, maybe feeling like an intervention kind of thing. But check on that person. You never know what might be going down below the surface, right? Maybe they're feeling like they're left out, or maybe they're dealing with uh, temporary sadness or grief or something that you don't see because they've been pulling away. Um, Mental health is so important because sometimes we don't see the signs, right? We get busy with our lives, and especially if we have children, you got like 6 kids and you got like 4 of them on a baseball team. Um, you're very busy, and sometimes you don't necessarily have the time. But if you notice that somebody is starting to pull away, imagine being that person and nobody noticing. Imagine what you would feel like if one of your good friends suddenly wasn't there anymore. And this is a reality that we live in, okay? So even if there is the slightest concern, check on them. Call them up randomly, like, hey, can we get some coffee? Just you and me. If they say no, can I come over? No? Well, how about we have a talk on the phone? Try to get them to open up. Okay. Um, Now, when we're talking about a dynamic between just two people, and let's say this is your best person, like you know that you can rely on that person. Check the dynamic. Observe your interactions and look at the give and receiving in that relationship. Okay? Um, like I said in the short, is there an always or never in this relationship? Extremes are not necessarily a good sign. Okay? Um, we're not really like, I mean, don't get me wrong. Some people are very black and white, but that's not like they're always going to be black or they're always going to be white on the spectrum, right? There's usually I'm black over here on this day, and then I'm white over here on this day. But there's some gray there. There's no gray in between that. That's fine. That they're not always on this side or always on this side. There's back and forth. Okay, so it's not necessarily an extreme in what I'm talking about. But I'm like, if you come to your friend like, hey, I just started this new project. It's really awesome. I'm really excited about this. And every time you tell them that, they're like, well, that's a terrible idea. But they don't give you a reason why. Or maybe they're giving you like 100 reasons why. And they're all playing on your fears or your anxieties or stopping you from doing something that's going to spread your wings. This is a cause for concern. Okay? And then on the exact opposite end of the spectrum, somebody who just agrees with you all the time because they don't want to upset you or they don't want to get out of your good graces. And like, some of them ideas are dumb, but they always tell you, oh yeah, totally, totally, you'd be great at that. Oh yeah, do that. Oh yeah, yes. We don't want brown nosers, but we also don't want negativity, right? We don't want those extremes. We want to be able to see that the person is honest with us. Like every now and then they're like, man, I don't think this is a good idea. Maybe you should think about this. There's a good thing too there. Like, well, maybe you should think about this. Like, we don't, like, we need to find somewhere in the middle. Balance, right? I explain it to my children as a pendulum. Okay? When it comes this way, it has to swing back this way, right? So if there's always over here, again, don't like the word always and never, but if they're always over here, when is it going to swing back the other way? Because if you keep going and going and going and going and going and going, eventually it's going to swing back so far that it goes back up to the other end. We want a little bit of swing because that's life, right? Sometimes we're good, sometimes we're bad. But if it's always bad or always good, these are extremes. And extremes have to be balanced. Right? So, this is something that I highly suggest doing over the next 2 weeks. Okay, so we just had the new moon last night. And the new moon is when the shadows are the hardest to spot because there's no light. And over the next 2 weeks, as the moon gets brighter and brighter, we are doing work, right? We are working on everything. And right now is a great time to work on your relationships. Right now is a good time to look at where you are in your life. Am I surrounded by people who are trying to dim me? Or am I surrounded by people who are helping to lift me up? So, look for extremes, okay? And look for an imbalance, okay? If it's imbalanced, like you give more support than the person gives to you, this is not a relationship you really need in your life. And I did a video yesterday about loving from the overflow, right? We can't overflow if we have nothing pouring in. So, over the next 2 weeks, look at your life, look at your friendships, look at your relationships. Do they offer support? Do they offer you fun? Do they lift you up? Do they amp you up? Do they bump you up? Are they helping? Or are they playing on your fears, playing on your anxieties? Do you feel drained when you're with them? Do you walk away like, man, I wish I didn't have that conversation? Or, oh, so glad that's over. Just because somebody's not good for us doesn't mean we have to dislike them or hate them or any of that stuff. But we can release them with love. They're just not at the same place as I am in my life. For the longest time, like we were always told, friends are forever. But that's not necessarily true. We can have friends for long periods of time, but that doesn't mean you're always going to be the same. We're not always the same. We grow, we change. And to say that we have to be friends forever, why? Yes, we were friends at this point in time in my life, and you helped me. But I blossomed, I bloomed, I turned into a butterfly. You're still in your cocoon. Or you're still a caterpillar. Just because you became friends doesn't mean you have to stay friends. If somebody is uncomfortable with you getting outside of your box, this is not a true friend. Or they're just not in the same place that you are. You never know. Maybe one day they too will become a butterfly and you can reconnect. And then it'll be wonderful and happy and you'll fly away together. But as I tell my friend all the time, do not keep yourself down to drag somebody else up. They cannot see you until you fly high enough and bright enough for them to see you. You are a lighthouse. Lighthouses are not 6 inches off of the ground. Soar. Fly. Goodbye does not always have to be forever. It can just be a goodbye for now. Sometimes it is forever, sometimes it's not. So soar. I love you. Have a great day.